Hey, welcome back to the Ox Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Big Book, aka Ox, and do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. If you're not subscribed, you'll be notified anytime I drop any new content. But Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. This was basically for first place in the NFC North Division. You heard a lot of reasons why Detroit was not valid. And the top reason I think people are talking or were talking the way they were about Detroit is just because it's the Detroit Lions. And there's a lot of people that still can't bring themselves to believe that the Lions are the best team in the NFC. It's like they've been bad for so long. It's hard for people to come to the conclusion that the Lions are the best team right now in the NFC and probably the first or second best team in the whole NFL. So there were people were saying things to maybe take away what the Lions were doing this year. They're a dome team. Every single game that they've played this year has been in a dome. Well, now they're going to Green Bay, and we're really going to see what they're made of because the outside elements were not supposed to be very friendly. And Green Bay is used to playing in them, but Detroit isn't. And Jared Goff, throughout his history, he wasn't a very good quarterback when he was playing in those climates. So you had that kind of talk going on, and people were saying that the real Detroit is going to show up and the real Jared Goff is going to show up because he's been on a tear. And Green Bay is going to assert themselves where they should be. Well, then we have the game. And Detroit just continued to do what they've been doing. They took control of the game. They did what they felt like. When they felt like running, they ran the ball. When they felt like throwing, they threw the ball. Special teams was great. And don't get me wrong, in the elements that they were playing in, it will get colder in Green Bay. But as far as the rain, the downpour that was going on, people, the rain was coming down sideways. And I believe it was 40-mile-per-hour winds. Detroit just kept right on moving like the machine they are. And it was great to see because now you can't say that Detroit has a weakness or they can't play this style of football. They went in, they ran the ball, they passed the ball. Special teams was great. Unlike Green Bay, who had drops, who had costly turnovers. And listen, Jordan Love is a very good quarterback. But I believe Jordan Love is more Brett Favre than Aaron Rodgers. He's more like a gunslinger. Like, I think he tries to make the play on every play instead of understanding, hey, we got second down, we got third down, and then you know what, if we have to punt, that's not a bad solution. He puts his defense sometimes in bad spots. He makes some throws and he makes some plays, and you're like, wow, this guy is one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best young quarterbacks we have in the league. And then he makes some plays and you're just like, man, what are you doing? Why did you do that? What do you see? And that's why Green Bay is in the position that they're in. It's not like and I'm talking about Jordan Love, had just got into the NFL. He's been in the NFL. I believe this is his 5th year. Even though this is only his 2nd full year starting, he's had time to learn. So he's got to correct that. Those mistakes he's doing, he's got to correct. But anyway, Detroit won the game 24-14, and it wasn't that close. It wasn't. They were up 24-6 and basically just put it on cruise control. That's what they basically did. So once again, when you look at the statistics, people are saying, Green Bay, they had important drops, and without these drops, then the game could have changed here, and the game should have been a lot closer than what it was. Well, you can say that for every game. If this quarterback would have made this throw, if this wide receiver would have caught this pass, if this lineman would not have held, if this defensive back wouldn't have committed a pass interference play. But guess what? That's part of the game. You can't take that stuff out. That shows you who's a disciplined team and who's an undisciplined team. And Detroit, without their best defensive player, Aiden Hutchinson, without their second best defensive player, Brian Branch, who was ejected on what they call a flagrant helmet-to-helmet hit, which I don't agree with at all. If you look at that play, you could see he was actually throwing some shoulder into that hit. If he wanted to be malicious, he really could have tattooed him. And the fact that you threw this man out, this is not college football. This is the NFL. You do not get thrown out because of a hit like that. There's been hits worse than that this year, and it's been a 15-yard personal foul penalty. And we keep playing. Maybe a fine, but they continue to play. And the fact that this game was this important and you threw this man out for that kind of hit is crazy. It's crazy. And I think Detroit should appeal that. Now, I don't know what could happen because the game's already been played. So I don't know what actually can be done. But it needs to be appealed. Detroit needs to look into that because what we don't want is something like that to happen as we get further down into the season and playoffs come up. We don't want, an important person like that, an important player, a defensive leader, to get ejected off a terrible call. And I'm not just saying that for Detroit. I wouldn't want that with anybody. We want to beat you at your best. Not because the referees, whether they be on the field or the replay crew in New York, are making terrible calls. That was a terrible call. And I hope it gets straight. I really do. I hope it gets straight. Jared Goff is still on fire. I guess supposedly he's had this shtick about him to where when he played before for the Rams, he couldn't play in bad weather. Well, he was okay. His completion percentage was still very high. And it is not like Detroit is throwing 3-yard outs, 5-yard slants. Detroit actually pushed the ball down the field. So his completion percentage and this run he's on is absolutely incredible because they are still pushing the ball down the field. They are 6 games in to this run Jared Goff is on. And on this run, he still has more touchdowns than incompletions. That's crazy when you really think about it. That is absolutely crazy. But for the people who are trying to find something to say about Detroit to try to validate that they are not the best team in the NFC, what are you going to say now? Because this is the second week in a row that they've been outgained total yardage. It's the second week in a row. And they absolutely destroyed Tennessee. And this game here, They were in complete control of the game. That touchdown that Green Bay had at the end of the game, that was a garbage touchdown. I don't even count that. That was a garbage touchdown. And Detroit could have scored at the end of the game, but they just decided to take a knee. So if you do look at the stats, Green Bay had more first downs, 20-17. They had more total plays, total yardage. They had over 400 yards, 411 yards. Detroit only had 261 yards. But mistakes. It wasn't like Green Bay stopped Detroit. Green Bay made mistakes that Detroit capitalized off of. So they didn't need the ball as much as Green Bay. Green Bay had 9 drives, Detroit had 8. Detroit just didn't have to, they didn't have to drive down the field as long as Green Bay had. Because when you got a punter like we got, boy, Fox is a weapon. He is a weapon. When you're kicking in that kind of weather, the way he was flipping the field, it helps a lot. It totally helps a lot. Like I said, this team is like a locomotive. It's like a machine on autopilot. It is running great offensively, defensively, and on special teams. And for a defense that cannot get pressure, they are still making plays. They are still getting turnovers without getting pressure. And with the move they made today with Ladarius Smith, he's going to bring some pressure. So, I believe Detroit was a Super Bowl contender if they did not make a move. And making the move that they did solidified that position as far as them being the top team in the NFC. So if we look at some individual stats, like I said, Jared Goff, he was 18 for 22, still very, very consistent. 145 yards. He had 1 touchdown. And that touchdown was to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And the best thing about that play was a 4th down play. And you know how Coach Campbell, he takes chances. And in that weather, being that close, that was not a bad call. I agree with it. Because if you don't get it, they're inside the 5-yard line. And with the way your defense has been playing, bend, don't break, it wasn't a bad call. The route was a great route. If you saw the route, it was a great route. Jared Goff basically laid it over the top of the defender. Amon-Ra caught it, put 2 feet down, and the great part about it was the celebration that he did. And it was from a celebration from college, and I can't remember the team off the top of my head. I want to say maybe LIU or Louisiana Tech or something like that. Basically when he flips over on top of his head, and then he contorts his body to be straight as a board, and just for a split second, he's upright, on his head with his feet straight up in the air and his arms down his side. And if you look at it and you see the picture that was taken, it is a great picture. They got the picture of him on top of his head and another one of his teammates with his arms stretched wide in front of him. And it's a great picture. It is. It's a great picture. That celebration was everything. Detroit is having fun. They're having fun right now at everybody else's expense. At everybody else's expense. And in this kind of weather, they still couldn't be stopped. And Dan Campbell, he made that known. He said, this is the way that they're built. It don't matter if they're inside. It don't matter if they're outside. It don't matter if they're on grass, if they're on turf, if it's sunny, if it's rainy, if it's snowing, if it's in the mud. He said, we are built to win. And that's exactly what they've been doing. Montgomery had 73 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 65. Gibbs also had a touchdown. And basically, once they got the lead, once they got the pick six right before the half, it was cruise control. It was cruise control. That game was not close. Green Bay was never in that game. I would say after the first 10 minutes, Green Bay was never in that game. A game is 60 minutes. So if you want to say Green Bay was in, the game the first 10, 15 minutes, okay, a quarter, they were in the game. A quarter. So if that's what if that's what you got when you're trying to bring something to, validate your point that, Detroit is not as powerful as they are offensively, defensively, and on special teams. If they're not as complete as people are saying that they are, if they're not better than the teams that they are playing. Look, man, this is not college. This is not Alabama against Vanderbilt, which that's kind of bad because Vanderbilt beat them this year. This isn't Georgia against Vanderbilt. Okay? This isn't Penn State against Northwestern. These are NFL teams, and Detroit is beating all these teams by more than 2 touchdowns, which is crazy. Vegas lets you know how explosive Detroit is with the lines that they got. These lines that they're giving Detroit, they are huge, and people are still taking them. They made a move to help that defensive line. They signed Darius Smith. I can't wait to see him in action. I would assume he's going to start against the Texans. And remember, Jameson Williams comes back this week against the Texans. We've been doing this without J-Mo. And, I hope he's got those issues straightened out. And I know he's a young player, but I hope that this is kind of the end of the issues that we have been seeing from J-Mo. I hope he's starting to understand that he's a very important piece to this team. And we need him on the field. We need him on the field. But just a couple other things. Like I said, Jared Goff has been on an absolute tear. He's been on an absolute tear. He's up there right now in the MVP discussion with Lamar Jackson, with Josh Allen. He is up there. Derrick Henry. But I believe Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are going to cancel each other out. They're going to take votes away from each other. And he may not have as many passing yards as Lamar Jackson. He may not have as many touchdown passes as Lamar Jackson. But if the Detroit Lions get the number 1 seed, and I'd say they lose no more than 2 or 3 games, Jared Goff is going to win the MVP. He is going to win it because he's the most important person on the best team in the league. I mean, Baltimore has also been putting up good numbers, but they've also got 3 losses, 2 losses to last place teams. What are we doing? You can't do that. 2 losses to last place teams. So, Jared Goff, through these 6 games, now, he's had the highest passer rating of all time in these last 6 games. There has never been a 6-game run like he's had. The passer rating, 140.1, the highest ever. Do you know how many greats have played this game at quarterback? You can just go down the list. There's a litany of them. Nobody has ever done what Jared Goff is doing. Never. He is also the only player in NFL history for 6 straight games that has had a completion percentage of 72% or better and a passing rating of 105 with a touchdown. It's like he's doing things every week. He's breaking things that nobody has ever heard of because nobody has ever been in a position to do the things he's doing. He's completed 30 straight passes to Amon-Ra St. Brown. 30 straight. 30 straight. That is absolutely insane. Not a drop, not a bad thrown ball. 30 straight third downs, fourth downs. Amon-Ra is his main target. That's his main man. So even when Detroit is in a bind, yardage-wise, down-wise, that's who he's going to 30 straight times completed. 30 straight. I don't think that'll ever be duplicated. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, who is, he's exerting himself to be one of the most dynamic players in the game. He's on that Christian McCaffrey level now. He's explosive. He can take it to the house anytime he touches it. And David Montgomery, you better hit him to get him down. It takes a whole family to tackle this man. Sonic and Knuckles, they're going crazy. You got Sam Laporta, who's doing what he's doing at the tight end position. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a top 5 receiver to me. You've got the deep threat coming back in Jameson Williams. You got Jared Goff, who is as accurate as anybody has ever been in the league, and they just keep going. And it will continue against the Texans. It will continue. I believe that with Nico Collins coming back this week, supposedly, C.J. Stroud having a nice target to go to, I believe that game can be close. But if Detroit gets up early, the game is over. Because you got to outscore Detroit. Detroit doesn't hurt themselves. They are one of the best coached teams in the league. They're not going to hurt themselves. So you got to outscore them. There's not many teams in the NFL that can outscore Detroit. There's not that many defenses in the NFL that can slow them down. You know, people are talking about, well, I got to see, Detroit's great, but to say that they're the best team in the NFC, well, we haven't seen San Francisco with their full, complement of players. Deebo Samuel, he's been hurt. Christian McCaffrey hasn't played. Look, every team has important players out. Detroit's best player on defense is gone for the year. And then they also had their second player ejected on a terrible call and still held Green Bay to 1 touchdown. This bend but don't break defense, it worked. From the time Aiden got hurt, it worked. Nobody could take advantage of it. Nobody can give Detroit that L that people thought was coming. Now you helped with the pressures. That's going to help the defensive backs. That's going to help the safeties when you're getting pressure on the quarterback. So I can't wait to see Ladarius this weekend. Detroit is actually, man, these guys are so fun to watch because it looks like that's what they're doing. They're having fun. They're having fun. They're playing football and they're having fun, and they're playing football the right way. That's important too. They're playing the right way. And there's nothing better than a team who plays the right way, who's unselfish. They don't care. Montgomery doesn't care if he gets 13 yards. Sam Laporta doesn't care if he has 1 or 2 targets. There's been years where the top target on the team, even through wins, is complaining. Tears a team up. But thank you for joining me tonight. And like I said earlier, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Please do. Please do. If you like the video, you like the content, share the video. If you liked it, hit that like button for me. Hit that notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I drop any new content. And until next time, you have a great day, you have a great night, and God bless.